Hey everyone, I'm Joe and today I'm doing my summer book haul part 2. There are 32 books in total between the two parts. Part 1 had 14 books, this has 18 books in it. Basically, whereas in part 1 it had my birthday books and female authors, this essentially has everything else that doesn't fit into those two categories, so the selection of genres is much wider than my previous part. And with that said, let's get straight on to the books. The first two I'm not going to talk too much about because they're the only two books in this haul that I've actually read. And those are Leviathan Wakes and Caliban's War by James S.A. Curry. James S.A. Curry is the pseudonym or pen name of Ty Franks and Daniel Abraham. And these are science fiction books, and they are part of the Expanse series, of which there are eventually going to be 9 of them. I read these in the previous 2 months. I absolutely loved them, and if you want to hear my opinions and thoughts of them, then go and watch my wrap-up videos for the previous 2 months, which I will link in the description box below. The next 2 books are by the same author, and those are The Shadow Rising and The Fires of Heaven, both by Robert Jordan. This is the 4th and this is the 5th book in the Wheel of Time series. There are 14 of them in total. They are massive, each book is, and pretty much all 14 books in the series are fairly large. It is an epic fantasy series, often referred to in relation to Tolkien, and I'm not going to go into any great detail because I kind of can't, because it's obviously a 14 book epic series, but they are really good and I've enjoyed the previous 3 books and I'll be getting onto these quite soon. The next book is Engineering Infinity, which is edited by Jonathan Strahan. This is a short story collection of science fiction novels. Basically, I wanted a book that could get me into new and, at least to me, unknown science fiction authors, and this just seems a brilliant book, basically, because the amount of authors in it is really, really wide. There's Charles Stross, Gwyneth Jones, Peter Watts, Hanu Brahimi, and over almost a dozen more. So this is a good little book, I think, that will help me get into new science fiction authors, and it's only a little book as well. The 6th book is Pattern Recognition by William Gibson. This is the first book in a trilogy which is called the Blue Ant Trilogy. It is a science fiction cyberpunk series, also a partial sort of detective, I believe, at least slightly. And as you may know, I only got into Gibson finally at the start of this year with Neuromancer, and I've got quite used to his writing style and I like his writing style. This particular trilogy sounds quite interesting, as it sounds a slightly different type of writing style to Neuromancer, and it just sounds really good. And also the cover is really nice. I think it's just extremely simple because there's no picture, it's just writing. And the other 2 books in the trilogy I like it, as well as there's another trilogy unrelated to it, also by the same publisher, which has the same style as well. So the whole lot of very nice looking books if I get into them. The next 2 books are by the same author, and that is The Penultimate Truth and Martian Timeslip, both by Philip K. Dick. As you know, I am a massive fan of Philip K. Dick books. He's a science fiction author, as are both of these, who is well known for his massive range of ideas, as well as his massive range of books. He wrote an awfully large amount of books and short stories throughout his career, and he's extremely well liked and thought of within the science fiction community. And these are another 2 books that I am going to get round to and read of his, and I expect I'll probably like them because so far I've liked pretty much everything I've ever read of his, although I shouldn't say that really. The next book is Odd John by Olaf Stapleton. This is a science fiction novel about a character who is a mutant and he's become a sort of superhuman character, almost a sort of Superman type figure, and he thinks that he and indeed others like him are now superior to humans in every way, and he thinks that humanity should essentially bow down to him because he is God, basically, or the next best thing to a god. It sounds a really interesting book, and one that I just brought up purely by the fact that it's a early sort of superhero novel, essentially, from what I can tell, and it just sounds quite curious. It makes me really want to read it. The 10th book is The Complete Roderick by John Sladek. This is one that I've been wanting to read for quite a number of years. It's a science fiction novel about a robot, but it sounds slightly unusual because it's actually from the robot's point of view. He is a AI robot. He's built to serve humanity, and this is essentially his diary, his chronicles, and it just sounds really curious, especially as obviously being from a robot's point of view means the writing style and the ideas will be very odd. I hope they are, because it just sounds really, really good. The next two things are a graphic novel, and those are Serenity, Those Left Behind, and Serenity, Better Days. These are the first two books, or graphic novels, set in the Firefly world, which is a TV series that Joss Whedon did over 10 years ago now. I am a massive fan of the TV series and indeed the film. They sadly only made one series of it before it got cancelled. The studio was obviously very stupid. Thankfully they managed to make the film and finish the series off. These are essentially like little mini episodes that they never sort of were unable to get filmed, and I love them. I already have both of these already in paperback format, and I have the third and the fourth ones as well in hardback, so I wanted to get these two to match the third and the fourth. So they're actually replacements, which I don't do that often, and they are just, well, the Firefly, I love Firefly more than I can say. It's my favourite TV series ever, and in my opinion the best TV series that's ever been made. So these are just one thing that I just are going to love. The next book is Imagica by Clive Barker. Clive Barker is known for his horror books. Most of them were horror. This is relatively unusual for him. This is actually one of the very few fantasy novels that he did. It's a bit of a monstrous thing. Actually, it is quite thick, but it's one that sounds really interesting. The plot sounds really complex and frankly unusual, so I'm not going to try to describe it, but it is well thought of and well liked, and one that I'm going to read, ideally with a very particular other booktube, I suspect. The next two books are by the same author, and those are The Secret of Crickley Hall and The Rats, both by James Herbert. These are both supernatural sort of thrillers / horrors. This is actually James Herbert's first ever novel, and there is actually 3 sequels to it. This is a special edition copy, all in black with the gold shiny writing, and it looks really, really nice. They made The Secret of Crickley Hall into a short television miniseries on the BBC, I think it was, about 3 or 4 years ago. And I plan to read both of these in October as part of a spooky themed month. So you'll see me mention these again very, very soon indeed. The next two books are also by an author known for his spooky writing, and that is Christine by Stephen King and On Writing by Stephen King. Christine is about a demon car which is possessed, and it goes round and kills everybody that its owner, which is a young guy, doesn't like, I believe. And it's one that I've heard of before, and indeed they made it into a movie, and it just sounds really interesting, and it was also on offer, so I couldn't help but buy, and indeed now I'm going to be reading it. On Writing is a non-fiction book. It's a sort of guide to writing as well as a memoir of sorts of Stephen King, and considering how successful Stephen King has been, this is extremely well thought of and well liked, and one that I'm just curious about reading, especially as it's non-fiction. I don't read a lot of non-fiction, and I would like to fix that slightly. And finally, the last book is The Garden of Evening Mists by Twan Eng. I think that's how you pronounce it. This is actually unusual for me in that this is historical fiction. I read very little historical fiction. I've actually got less than 10 books in total that I classed as it. And I bought this purely based on Mercedes Bookish Musings, which is a fellow booktuber's opinion. She really liked it. It looked nice, actually, this edition did, and it just sounded quite interesting. I would like to read a little bit more historical fiction because I really don't read enough, frankly, and I want to widen my variety of genres a lot more than I already have done, and this will help quite a bit. And with that said, that's it for this video. So if you'd like to talk to me about any of these books, or indeed any other books, then please leave a comment below and we can have hopefully a really interesting conversation. And with that said, that is it for this video. So thank you for watching and I'll see you another day. Bye for now.